Welcome to episode 230 of the Necronomicon.com. Tickets are now on sale as the official StokerCon pre-party returns. Spirited Giving, a horror-themed fundraiser, will take place May 29th at the San Diego Central Library. We will have live readings by Clay McLeod Chapman, Jamie Flanagan, Bridget D. Brave, Vincent V. Cava, Danger Slater, and I. Zhang, as well as a live performance by YouTube horror narrator Mr. Creepypasta. And all of that is followed by meet and greets, book signings, photo ops, and more. All while raising money for the San Diego Library Foundation, particularly youth reading programs and the Books Unbanned initiative. If you're planning on attending StokerCon or you're in the area, you do not want to miss this event. It's going to be one hell of a night. Grab tickets now at www.spirited-giving.com and help horror leave a lasting impact on the community of San Diego. And I want to send a quick thank you to Fright Rags, one of our top sponsors for Spirited Giving 2024, May 29th, San Diego, California. Fright Rags has been bringing you the best in horror apparel and accessories since 2003, offering a wide range of products for your favorite creature features, slasher flicks, and cult classics. Officially licensed collections include titles like John Carpenter's The Thing, The Evil Dead, Creep Show, Jaws, the Halloween franchise, and so many more. Head on over to fright-rags.com. Make sure to sign up for their SMS and email newsletter to never miss a drop. Listeners get 10% off when they use the code NECRO10, all caps, at checkout. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And I hope and pray that I am played by Emma Roberts when I'm older.
You know what? I'm Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host the podcast that you're listening to. And I have to say something. I mean, James and Jamie, you both smell pretty. You both smell so
That's
pretty.
the line I pulled from this? Oh, God.
That is a pretty fantastic line.
Yeah, it's a very creepy line. Yeah, very creepy line. Fair. Yeah,
and her delivery is so good.
Surprisingly, it's creepier than you remind me of my daughter. I'm like,
oh no.
We're gonna get to all that.
Bad.
I have a lot to say on that. But joining us today, Jamie Flanagan's on the show. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. It's good to have a chance to talk to nice people about a fun movie, you know?
Heck yeah. You want to tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your many projects?
Sure. So I'm Jamie Flanagan. I am primarily a screenwriter for television. So I've worked on The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Midnight Club, The Fall of the House of Usher, Creep Show, and Peacock's upcoming show Hysteria. And yeah, that's mostly my television stuff. For film, I helped adapt one of Christopher Pike's novels called The Season of Passage, which sadly did not see the light of day after we adapted it for Universal, but we gave it our best shot. We even cut all of the essay out of it, which was, surprisingly voluminous. I remembered, so much about Christopher Pike from my youth and just loving his stories. And then I went back to Season of Passage, which used to be one of my favorites, and just found so much sexual assault that I was like, yep, I'm adapting this and I'm cutting all of the sexual assault, all of it. It was a weird moment. But that one never quite made it, unfortunately. It would have been a neat one if it had gone. But, what are you going to do? In terms of writing beyond that, I got a couple of short stories coming out this year, which I'm immensely proud of and really humbled that people have taken a chance on publishing them. It's always really strange to make a shift in the medium in which you're telling a story. And short stories have always been close to my heart. You know, I grew up on Stephen King's short stories and Neil Gaiman's short stories, and to be able to write a few of my own, which I've been working on for a while, probably longer than I'd care to admit. You know, I think one of them, Bruiser, at this point is about 6 years old at least, and it's been through about 1,000 iterations in that time. And another one, Moira, which is coming out in Shadows in the Stacks, which is a fantastic charity anthology that's coming out for Spirited Giving this year. Is Moira is probably my favorite thing that I've ever written. It's also the one story I've ever written that I feel sorry for, and that I feel like I owe an apology to the protagonist, and that every time I read it, I feel like an asshole. It's really, it's strange because Moira as a character became very real for me in a way that not many characters I've written before have, and I'm really curious what people are going to think of that story when they read it, and I hope that they go into it with an open mind and an open heart, and a willingness to engage in the more melancholy aspects of life that I think we all go through, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we have a sign on our wall that says joy. I think all of us go through these dark patches, and unfortunately, Moira is a person who sort of falls into a dark patch and maybe finds a glimmer of hope out of it, but for the most part stays there. And that's never a character I set out to write, never a character I wanted to write, but there she is.
Well, as one of the editors of Shadows in the Stacks and the only person here who's read it other than you, that's just me taking a shot at Don. No, legitimately, you know this, but Moira is my favorite thing I read last year, and I cannot get enough of this story. I absolutely adore it. And just to hear you talk about it that little bit, like I was literally almost tearing up over here because Moira is that real to me. So I just want to say, I don't know how you put a real person in these pages, but you did it better than many. And it's a fantastic story. And I can't wait to see what people think of it.
Thank you both for saying that before we hit record and after. Yeah, no, it's incredibly kind of you. I'm really flattered. And again, to Moira, I'm very sorry. So yeah, looking forward to that anthology. I can't wait to see what the rest of the writers have put in there. There's so many wonderful names attached to that piece, and it's for such a good cause. So anybody out there who's on the fence about buying a ticket to Spirited Giving, or at least pre-ordering the anthology, either in the paperback form or in ebook, go ahead and do it. There's some beautiful stuff in there, and I've already got my copy on order, so I can't wait. Nice. I think they're going to send me a free one, which I'll have to give to someone eventually. But yeah, I already threw it in my order. It's for a good cause. Censorship is rampant. Apparently, the worst parts of our society, hot on the heels of their adaptation of Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, have decided to take up Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. So here we are. Hi. It's a terrible time in America. So buy this, please. It'll hopefully help libraries remain what they are.
Indeed. And for anyone who doesn't know, one of the easiest way to help libraries is to just get a library card if you don't have one. So much funding is based on how many people have library cards. And it doesn't even matter if you ever use it, although I definitely think you should. Just add that little bit and help somebody out. It costs you nothing, and it's just such a wonderful resource in so many ways that people don't think about. I want to throw out that you know this as well, but not only did you write my favorite short story of the year and my favorite prose story of the year, you wrote an episode of Creep Show that rocked my fucking world, and it is my favorite thing I watched this past year. And I was like, man, I have a type. I am a Jamie Flanagan fan. Can you talk a little bit about the Creep Show episode? And you don't have to give away the ending, but I want to say the ending is what absolutely made it for me and why it's so special to me.
Sure, yeah. So this is 20 Minutes with Cassandra. Greg Nicotero, who'd watched Midnight Mass, reached out to me to ask if I was interested in writing an episode of Creep Show. And at first, my reaction was no, because dear God, my tone and the things that I like to write, which are usually very sad, contemplative, dialogue-heavy pieces, I was like, I don't think Creepshow has room for that. And I love Creepshow. I should say that here. I'm a fan. I think The Finger might be my absolute favorite episode of Creepshow. It is so fucking good. It is one of those, slowly escalating horrors that, becomes this sort of of this one man who's like, I'm the dude who walks alone in Los Angeles. I'm like, I know that guy. I was that guy. And he sort of becomes his own monster, which is embodied in this finger he finds that he rehydrates, and it becomes a tiny monster that essentially goes after everybody he dislikes, including his ex-wife. And he ends up in a mental asylum, just, guilt-ridden about this and about what this thing is going to do on his behalf. And I loved that episode. Man, did I love that episode. So I kind of latched onto that. And after I'd already sent Greg and Brian Witten a short email saying, I'm so sorry, I don't think I can do this. About, an hour later, I sent them an email saying I got something. And, it was a story that began in what I thought was a very Creepshow place, which was, your sort of rote house under siege story, home invasion story of a supernatural entity outside that needs to get in. And originally what I wanted to do was I wanted to write a story where there's one woman living in her house, another woman knocks on the door, demands to be let in because there's a monster outside. And then, this woman who's been let into the house says, hey, there's a monster outside. It's following me and it's going to kill you for helping me. And I'm really sorry about that, but, I need to survive. So that's what this is. And then the next 30 minutes was going to be originally this Cassandra character, this sort of oracle who comes in and announces that the protagonist is going to be killed. She's going to say, hey, in this 30 minutes, I really want to get to know you. Because the one thing that I thought was always missing from Creepshow, but not missing from Creepshow because Creepshow doesn't need it, was character development. And the sort of the meta that I had for this that I tried to pitch them was that Cassandra was the writer of the episode. And Lorna, the victim, was the character that she was trying to write and trying to give characterization to. And that the monster was just a mechanic that would come in 30 minutes and kill the protagonist. And so in that time, the protagonist is struggling to keep the monster out, while Cassandra is struggling to get to know intimately the protagonist because she wants her piece to feel authentic. That didn't fly. That was too highbrow, apparently, for everybody at Creepshow.
But every writer out there is like, wow, I want that. I want to see that.
I mean, I did. It was the only thing I could think of. Was I didn't personally know how to make a character feel real in that format, given what Creepshow is. And I was like, how do I make a character feel resonant in that beyond, hey, where's my cake? Or, two corpses come back after being drowned by Leslie Nielsen to kill Leslie Nielsen. I didn't really have a good way in. And God damn it, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing those episodes. I love those episodes. I'm just shitty enough that I can't write one. Then it became something different. When they were like, that doesn't work for us, I was like, all right, so what is this? What's the thing? And it became an avenue to talk about codependent relationships and narcissism. It became a place to talk about how we self-sabotage in wanting a connection and needing a connection. We create this kind of void sometimes that sucks in other people. And it turns them into objects to make you feel as though you're connecting. And I say this, and I'm hoping that like 90% of the audience is like, what the fuck is that? Because that would reassure my faith in humanity. But I've at least dated one human being who treated me this way. And at the end of the day, they, like Cassandra, was someone who would just like breeze into my life, throw all of their shit at my doorstep, wreck me, and then just leave. You know? And I would do my best to keep the both of us alive and sane. They would fucking come in like a wrecking ball and then leave without dealing with anything. So I was like, this is a story about someone who has their own personal monster that invades somebody else's space because they don't want to be alone. But of course, they are incapable of being with somebody else. It's the paradox of these people. They want connection, but at the same time, they cannot handle honest human connection. And when that moment comes up that it threatens to become real, that they are threatened to be understood, they flee. And they leave you with the baggage, and they leave you with the pain, and they leave you with the hurt. And this became a story about that for me, about a stranger that breaks into somebody's house and kind of wants to get to know them, but really what they want to do is they want to get that person's attention. They want to get that person's, they want that person to see them. They don't necessarily want to see that other person. And the minute they're found out for what they are, they flee and they leave that person with their monster to deal with. And that monster, of course, is pain and sadness and death. And so the last 10 minutes of that episode is a grown woman holding a baseball bat covered in knives, sitting on a couch next to a giant talking mouse that drinks wine, and they talk to each other about life for 10 minutes. I got away with that shit in Creepshow. I am a fucking god. And I got away with it, don't get me wrong, like so many people hate this episode, but for me, the last 10 minutes is a big old slice of my heart. I'm so proud of the actors who took part in it, from Samantha Sloyan to Ruth Codd to Carrie Jones, who did the monster, to Greg Nicotero for directing it and having the fucking balls to go this far out of format in that particular show. Like, I couldn't have asked for better collaborators. And if you have any problem with that episode, bring it to me and not any of them.
Bring it to me. I'll tell you why you're wrong for like 2 hours straight. I want to add, didn't it also kick off the season? Isn't it the first?
It kicked off the season, and the poster is the DVD poster is the creep holding an issue that has Cassandra on the cover. We really doubled down on pissing everyone off, me and Greg Nicotero. I'm super proud of it. I think James Sabata, like you and John Skip, are the two biggest advocates for this episode, and I'll take it.
That is a wonderful audience to be in. I'm fine with that.
People, and if this is the audience I'm playing to, I'm happy to. And at the same time, if folks went in there wanting something else from Creepshow, I'm sure they got it from many other wonderful episodes in this season in spades, from The Hat, which is incredible, to The Tooth Fairy, which is also incredible. And, both of which land in different sort of genres of horror. Like Tooth Fairy is just, grim body horror, like straight up, horrific, grim fairy tale. And then The Hat is sort of this ode to Stephen King, which is delightful. And I'm I kind of hope that there'd be room for Cassandra in there. It might have been a little too bold to open the season with it, given how much of a deviation it was from the format. One of my favorite criticisms I ever read was somebody on Reddit said, "What in the A24 is this shit?" I was like, "Yeah, bitch, you got A24'd."
That's amazing.
Crazy stuff. But anyway, thank you for watching it. Thank you for appreciating it. And thank you for letting me talk about it. And to anybody listening right now who hated it, thank you for watching it. And just know that if you didn't like it, there's nothing wrong with you. Your take is entirely valid. I will defend it to its dying day for obvious reasons. But just know that you're okay. You're validated. I'm not here to fight you. And I just thank you for watching the show, because Greg and everybody there does such wonderful things for the horror community. So keep on keeping on,
I'm kind of hoping after listening to this that the people who didn't like it haven't experienced what you talked about, and maybe that's why they didn't connect with it. Whereas I absolutely have, and that's why it resonates so hard with me. And
so
listening to you
sorry.
describe it that way, I was like, holy shit, that's everything I've been trying to put into words from watching this. And wow, yeah. So if that's why they hate it, fantastic. If they just
I'm
they
glad
haven't
you've never been there. Yeah.
yeah, they haven't had to suffer. Excellent. Otherwise, they're jerks, and I hate them. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh man. One thing I want to throw out as well that you did not mention was you are also an actor, and you've been in some wonderful stuff, including my favorite Shining movie, Dr. Sleep. So
Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi shot me in that one. That was a fun one. Yeah, it's weird. I went to school for theater arts, and I think I was always a middling / mediocre actor on stage and screen, and I just got very, very lucky in both of those venues to ride out an equity card for a while in theater, and then a SAG card for a while in film. But I was never going to be somebody who could make a living off of that. I was always teaching adjunct or what else? God, waiting tables, bartending. At one point, I sold those Cutco knives, those vector knives to the, you can only sell those to your friends and it's the worst job.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so brutal. Yeah, I did that for a minute. It was bad. So no, I did 1,000 other things, and I enjoyed acting in that stuff. But I wouldn't call myself an actor. I would call myself someone very lucky who gets to be in theater shows and film sometimes. The most recent acting gig I did is for Hysteria, which is coming out on Peacock, as I mentioned, and that was kind of funny because in the writers' room, there was a priest character. And the showrunner, Matthew Scott Kane, and the co-showrunner, David Goodman, had kind of they pulled me into the writer's room on that one because of my work on Midnight Mass. There was a priest character in this show. And so they would often ask me, like, what would the priest think or say here? And instead of just pitching it, I would actually just do the lines as I was thinking of them in real time. And then after the writer's room closed, a couple of months later, I got an email from Matthew saying, "Hey, do you want to play the priest?" It's like, fuck. Sure, fun, why not? And so I submitted a self-tape, and it didn't scare casting or the producers away, and they let me in to do it. Next week, I have to go do ADR on some stuff, but it's not too bad. But I had a great time doing it. I worked with some really great directors on that one, and some really great actors like Bruce Campbell is in it, Nolan North is in it. Man, it's really pretty cool. So if you get a chance and you want to see like a heavy metal Satanic Panic YA thriller show, definitely go for Hysteria when that comes out. Probably be out next year, I would think. It'll be on Peacock. And again, like, we have Bruce Campbell playing the town sheriff. Like, what more do you want?
So we're doing Briscoe County Jr. again.
Oh God, yeah. God,
that is awesome.
Oh, it was so good. I mean, anything with Bruce Campbell. I mean, I grew up on Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 1 was the one that I saw last, strangely enough, because, just friends had brought me Evil Dead 2 and then Army of Darkness, and then someone was like, you should see the first one. And I was like, should I? And then I got to the part with the tree, and I was like, I shouldn't see this at all. No one should see this. The evolution of that went from hardcore horror to horror slapstick to slapstick, and I unfortunately began at horror slapstick and then went back to hardcore horror, and I was not prepared. Not at all. But man, oh man, I am, don't mind me, I'm on my own mental tangents here, so
it's all good.
You're in good company.
No, we'll get to the movie eventually, but I had one more follow-up question that you kind of hit. So when I'm writing, I write screenplays and I write short stories and novels and such, and every single thing I write starts out as a screenplay. It's just how I write. It's how I see things. I will literally write an entire screenplay in order to start writing a novella. And it really helps because my dialogue's already done. But I wanted to know your process with that. Like, you mentioned that they're different. Like, is your personal process really different, or does it start out the same? Like, just kind of like, what are those differences for you?
Sure. I think screenplays are easier because you don't have to artfully describe the internal life of someone. You just have to understand it. And then, you describe it through action. And the action can be terse, and it doesn't need to flow in terms of prose. The dialogue needs to be on point in terms of character motivation. But when you're writing a stage direction for how this character is, acting in the world, form doesn't matter, or style maybe doesn't matter as much. When you're writing a short story, prose matters, style matters, meter matters. All the stuff that, if you're a theater major out there, all the stuff that you learned with, studying Shakespeare, in terms of iambic pentameter, weirdly, in a short story, that shit matters. It matters less if you're grammatically correct and more if you keep a meter that keeps the reader wanting to keep reading. If you write entirely perfect grammar, where something is like unimpeachably correct, it might land like, just an anvil to the point where nobody wants to read it because it just feels so cold. But if you write something that in a short story that's a little bit more about rhythm than about being correct or saying something as succinctly as possible, if you write with rhythm, that, at least for me, will carry me along. I think Neil Gaiman does this exquisitely. Gaiman writes with rhythm. Some sentences drag on far longer than they need to. Others are far shorter than they should be. And the reason entirely is rhythm. It's the musicality of it. And that is very difficult, I think, to, honestly, I think it's called finding your voice that you hear about so often. Finding your voice is rhythm, and what kind of song it is you're out to sing. And that changes with any story that you write. And being able to swing with those changes to know whether you're singing a dirge or whether you're singing like, an epic. Those are different ways of writing. So for me, prose is complicated because prose is entirely about scoring music. The screenplay, you don't have to worry about that. With the screenplay, your dialogue's on point. Your descriptions are based on the inner life of the character, but you're not going for form, which is great. You don't have to stick a landing. You just have to have the pieces in place for the blueprint. It's more like building a house than living in the house and decorating it.
Nice.
Okay.
I love that. Don, do you have any questions for Jamie before I'm
sitting here taking notes. I'm like, all right.
Me too. I have more notes from this than I do for the movie. No.
No, like TLDR, it's easier to write a screenplay. And it's harder to write a 15-page short story.
No. But you pointed out like why as far as the work that goes into it, that a lot of people may not be thinking about. And when you brought up the idea, or at least the aspect that for you, screenwriting is easier than novelizing something, it makes sense because, I'm sorry, James, to bring up this memory, but I'm going to have to. You can understand why in some genres of literature that someone will spend 5 pages describing a tree or a rock or something like that. Because if it is on stage, if it's on screen, you're going to see the rock, you're going to see the tree, like you're going to get an understanding of that element, of that environment and the elements that those people are facing, as opposed to, I've got to talk to you about, the consistency of the rock. I've got to talk about the way the fog rolls in over the hills. We got to, even little things as far as like the tension that somebody could have. That's easy to pick up visually, but how do you write? I mean, it becomes an issue of coming up with a way to explain something as simple as the hair stood up on the back of somebody's neck. Where if you just simply say the hair stuck up on the back of Sally's neck, it doesn't have that same feel as if you were to see it. So you have to be more descriptive about that sensation, about that, about someone's mood, about, the interactions that are taking place. So yeah, it just made me think a lot about the way that works.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. I think that's entirely correct. And I'm in awe of people who write novels, novellas, and short stories consistently. For me, it's a tortuous process. And I'm not prolific when it comes to that. I tend to, churn out a lot of teleplays, screenplays, all that kind of stuff. I can do that very quickly. Short story, I'll work on on a short story for like 6 years. It's so much more difficult. Every sentence and every word in that sentence matters so much more. And in the way that it's delivered matters so much more. Yeah, I think if you're out there and you've written a novella or short story, just know that my hat's off to you. And I think that you're a better writer than I am, like hands down. Yeah, easily. And then there's also skill to being able to sacrifice, forming quote unquote the perfect sentence for just finishing the damn thing. And that's like in and of itself, like climbing a mountain. Like, it's so easy, I think, to get lost in the weeds of, is this the perfect way to express this within this paragraph that I'm writing, given every sentence that surrounds it? Yeah, not to get lost in those weeds and to just finish the thing. Again, you're a better writer than I am because I get lost in those damn weeds. And, I got like 4 or 5 things like on life support that may never see the light of day because I don't know how to express them.
Right.
And other people either do, or when they hit the parts that they're not sure of, trust themselves enough to keep going and know that they have a, supportive editor who's going to help them get there, that kind of thing. And honestly, I think that's probably the way to do it, is just to get the thing done. And then after you hew your rough sculpture, get your editor in there with you to do the fine adjustments.
Right.
Yeah. So a long way of saying that I consider myself a middling writer outside of the screen world, and maybe inside of the screen world too. It's so difficult telling a story, strangely enough, even though we're all filled with them and we all live them and everyone I think is capable of telling them. There's so many things that you need to get out of the way to tell them right. And to tell them in a way that's appealing to other people. And sometimes that's just telling it in a way that appeals to you. Yeah, it's a fucking paradox and a mystery, and my hat's off to anyone who tries to be a writer or is a writer. It's just difficult. Hi, everybody in the writing community. My name is Jamie Flanagan. Clearly, I'm still a fledgling. Yeah, it's tough, and I'm even having trouble articulating it right now. Yeah.
No, I identify with so much of that. I definitely feel that. I think my biggest thing is I'll finish something and then it'll sit there for a while. And then I'll be like, I'm going to read through this, which is always a terrible plan because then I'm like, I could change that word. And then for the next 4 weeks. So there's also that line of once you've said it's done, you got to stick with that too,
Yeah, I figure at that point, give it to an editor, like call up Carmen Wells or Lindy Ryan and be like, hey, I got this story and it needs an editor. And that's what I've done for the most part, is if I've done something and I feel like it could be better, which is everything I've ever written, I get in touch with somebody I love and trust, and I pay them money to do the professional thing and go through it and tell me what they honestly think of it. And that to me is the way. Yeah, like Carmen Wells really did a number on Bruiser, and then so did Lindy Ryan in a great way. Bruiser's coming out in Lindy Ryan's anthology, The Darkest Night, which is going to be out I think late this year, question mark, after StokerCon, at least, that much I know. But yeah, they managed to do the work that finished those pieces and the polish on those pieces in ways that I couldn't have, and I'm eternally grateful to them both. So yeah, if you get to that point where you're fussing over one word or another, I think that's the time to bring in an outside eye that you trust, and then to really take their words to heart. I remember Lindy sent me back their first edit of Bruiser, and it was a ton of line edits in there, and I went through, and it was about making a compromise between correctness and rhythm, and that was a lot of fun. Once I realized that just how horrible my grammar was. It was a good thing. It was very liberating to be like, all right, this is the correct version of it, and I will or I won't take it because X, Y, or Z. And I'm for Lindy, I took more than 75% of what it is they sent me easily. Like Lindy sent me such wonderful changes and ideas, and so did James and Vincent V. Cava. You sent me a couple of line edits for Moira that I was happy to integrate. Most of the time when I get notes like that on short stories, I'm not very defensive about them because what in the world would be anyone's motive to fuck with a story, beyond making it better? That's the thing is when that happens, I trust that this person A, likes the piece, and B, wants it to be better. And who am I to stand in the way of that?
Once we destroy this story, we won't have to make this anthology. Ha ha ha.
Exactly. They've paid me for this. Why in the world would they hamstring it? So, yeah, when Lindy sent me her edits, and yeah, Lindy had a lot. And Lindy is extremely good with language. I read their novella Cold Snap, which is going to come out in a couple of months, which I highly recommend. Nice. And it was one of those moments where I remember reading Cold Snap and being like, damn, this person actually knows how to write. So after that, you get that person's feedback, and it's very easy to trust once you've seen a world that they can conjure and a rhythm they can conjure, and the way that they were able to pull you along sentence by sentence in their story. I have almost no attention span these days. It got destroyed somewhere in the pandemic, and I finished Lindy's novella, which is the highest praise that I can give anything. I can barely finish my own work in terms of rereading things that I've written because my attention span is so gone. So yeah, when someone like that is like, hey, maybe try this way, I listen.
Well, Vince and I talk about it a lot, and we just believe that no great short story was written alone. And editors are a huge part of that. Beta readers can be a big part of that. Talking to your significant other or your friend or whoever, that little bit of feedback, even if you don't use the feedback, it can open some other door in your head and fix something. And I find the communal aspect of writing so interesting. And I feel like even in the horror community, we don't explore it enough. We don't talk about it a lot. We all get stuck on the I'm stuck in this room alone 22 hours a day, yeah. and we forget the part where it is a community raising a story. And I think that that's such a cool thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Also, I'm going to throw out, since you mentioned Carmen, if you need somebody awesome to follow on Instagram, Carmen's life is just life goals to me, and it's so cool to watch her go country to country and swimming with sharks and shit.
Oh my God, Carmen is the ultimate nomad, and I lived a nomadic lifestyle, not nearly as cool for a little while. And yeah, nothing but love and respect. Carmen's an incredible human being.
But yeah, I just had to throw that in. So I suppose we should talk about this film at some point.
Yeah, Oz Perkins, Blackcoat's Daughter. Let's do it.
Yeah. So why did you choose this film?
Because it's about lonely people in a lonely place during a lonely month, doing lonely things that end poorly, and that is entirely my interest in life. Is melancholy and yeah, what that yearning to want to be with other people can do to you over time. So from that, you can surmise I wasn't popular in high school.
It makes three of us. There, I took a shot at you, James.
Oh, I definitely wasn't. I mean, I was like infamous. Does that count? But no.
Well, that would be both of us.
No, I love your recap of the movie. Like that sums it up so well. And even in the final seconds, loneliness is permeating everything.
Oh, it's every choice in that movie is made out of a desire to be taken care of and to feel safe.
So basically, what the both of you are saying is this loneliness is killing you.
I must confess, I still believe.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Britney Spears and Oz Perkins. We are meshing these two worlds tonight. This is as it should be. I'm glad we're here.
Well, and it is a private school, so I mean, you got the music video. Oh my God, I just made way too many connections with
and
Britney
Joan
Spears.
might even have some Britney hair at some points, you know? It's
Well, I mean, Catherine does play piano and perform. She sings. Anyway, so Oz Perkins and the Blackcoat's Daughter. So Osgood Perkins, first of all, I think is a really distinctive voice in independent cinema. I've seen Blackcoat's Daughter and I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in This House, as well as Gretel and Hansel. I love Osgood Perkins stuff. I think that he has, just a finger on melancholy, and the other hand firmly wrapped around like a cord of nihilism that really works for me. I really appreciate what he's doing, and also the legacy that he comes from. Of course, being the offspring of Anthony Perkins, I think that it's an audacious thing to be Anthony Perkins' son and to go into horror to tell stories. I think that's actually a difficult move. I think the same thing is true for Duncan Jones. I think that people talk about Nepo babies and acting. Sure, yeah, I think there's some criticism to be had there. But when it comes to directors and storytellers, I mean, I think if anything, when they go into that thing, it's a struggle to get out of the shadow of the Titan that came before you. And I think that Osgood Perkins has acquitted himself beautifully and has certainly become his own voice. And I just adore his work.
Nice.
I think I had to watch a Disney movie after I'm the Pretty Things, because I remember when I think I saw it on Netflix with my wife, and I had to watch something like upbeat afterward. I was like, I'm damaged. I need to do something else. And that was kind of how I felt at the end of this one, because I was telling you, I didn't mean to cut you off, James, but
you're good.
When James and I were messaging earlier, I said, I didn't like the pacing at first, but when it got to that last 10, 15 minutes, the pacing makes 1000% sense. Right? Because a lot of times there'll be this, oh my gosh, it was so slow, it was this, and you get that criticism, and I've been guilty of it as well, with that criticism with A24 films, or when somebody says this is elevated horror, this is so much better because of it. I'm like, no, you just tell me, what the movie's about. I'll watch it. I'll determine whether or not I like it or not. But not everybody. You may have some people that would be turned off by that pacing because they want to be right into the action, right into the action. They want to know, what the stakes are. But this one, it's not clear. And again, initially I didn't like the pacing, but when you get to those last 10 to 15, 20 minutes, it makes sense because you're supposed to be uncomfortable with the pacing because you keep waiting for that thing to happen. And when that thing happens, your response is, oh, shit.
Right?
Wait a second. Whoa. I was wanting this to happen, and you went that direction. Mm-hmm. Like, I was expecting the nuns, the sisters, I forgot their names, but Miss Chalmers and whatever the other one was.
It's Chalmers from The Simpsons.
I'm sorry, Prescott and Drake.
Chalmers. Yeah.
Super Nintendo Chalmers.
Super Nintendo Chalmers.
Steamed hams. But I was expecting like, okay, I'm gonna see like some ceremony, but then I also wrote down in my notes, was like, all right, so Rose is telling some bullshit story to Kat about to freak her out because they're there over the break by themselves with these two women. So these women have to be weird. They're wearing wigs. They worship the devil. You've never seen their eyebrows. All this is fake. So I'm waiting. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna get like a moment like in The Witches, where there's that big, that reveal of I'm taking my wig off and you get to see who I am. So I'm thinking,
turn you into a fucking mouse.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, we'll sit on the couch and talk about life.
I'm sorry, James. Go ahead.
No. You were fine, man. I couldn't resist the creep show joke. No, the pacing. So Jamie, you were saying how you have no attention span, and that is me. I have complained nonstop about so many movies because they're so slow for me. And it's not personal. It's just I can't do it. Like I just get distracted, and then I have to watch everything 3 times, and And I expected that with this. The way it started, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have problems. And I didn't. And I was really surprised by that. And I think what you're talking about throwing off the pacing actually really worked for me. And I don't fully know why, but I was invested the entire time. And I just wanted to throw that out because so often on this show, I've talked about how pacing destroys movies for me. And I think it's amazing that I finally got the other side of that.
Yeah, I'm going to get her name wrong. Is it Kiernan Shipka?
I think so.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is due to the writing and her performance of that central role as Catherine. From the jump, from the moment she wakes up from this nightmare where she has this vision of her parents dead in this car accident and walks over to the calendar and crosses off, the previous day and then looks at the next one and it's, mom and dad are going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Kiernan Shipka from that moment is in confusion and mourning in equal measure. And that is fascinating to watch because the very next scene, she's talking to the headmaster of this school that she's at, but she isn't quite talking just to him. She's also responding and listening to something that we can't see and that he can't see. And I think that as a scene too off that teaser is absolutely arresting because instantly we have mystery, we have tragedy, and we have foreshadow. Boom. By scene 2, we have all 3 of these elements working as a braid. That's difficult to do and rarely seen. Then you throw Rose into the mix, right? And Rose is just like introduced in this incredible shot of walking in slow motion into this classroom where all of the other students appear to be asleep or dead. And they're meant to be, I'm sure, asleep, and I'm sure it's just for aesthetics, but man, does it work. It's creepy as fuck that all of them have their eyes closed and all of them are unmoving. And she goes and sits down and has her yearbook picture taken. And is this image of, this sort of popular girl in school look, right? This sort of every girl. And, fresh out of that, and you get your situation, which is both of these 2 kids are trapped on campus during what looks to be a break. Rose is there, we get the impression, because Rose has convinced her parents not to come on the correct dates. She can go on a date with her boyfriend. And then Catherine, on the other hand, when she's delivered the news that her parents aren't coming, this is just lending more credence. We know, but of course she never says it, which is great. We know that is lending more credence to the vision she had in which her parents are dead. So Catherine's subtext in scene 3 is my parents are dead. And she is trying her best not to cry and looking also up and to the left at something we can't see, and also putting on a false face for the person who is assuring her that her parents are coming. It's so much subtext, and it is so layered that, again, I just find that completely captivating.
Her performance is entrancing. It's so good.
Yeah. And so, yeah, she, I think she kind of carries it, and her performance is, really, really beautifully complemented by Joan, which is her character grown up, who, we get the impression that this character has escaped from a mental hospital or something of the kind. They're tearing off a wristband that suggests they were an inpatient. We don't quite know that it's Catherine grown up, but I think we kind of suspect. The hair is very similar, and there's at first, it's not clear that it's a different timeline, but that sort of becomes clear in time. And that's also a really interesting story, right? So you jump over to Joan, and you get this hitchhiking waif who might be a mental patient escapee. Gets approached by a man at night at what I guess is like a bus stop. I think she's waiting for a bus or something. And my first thought is, holy fuck, don't go anywhere with that man. That man is dangerous.
Oh, my wife's right over there. Trust me.
Exactly. She's in the station wagon. Come on. And I'm like, this is going to end horribly. I was like, this is going to be terrible. Whatever's coming, I don't want to see it. She gets in the car with this man and his wife, and ends up at a hotel, and he comes in like right after she takes a shower, and there's this feeling of like a sexual threat almost. I'm like, is this guy like a pedophile? And his wife knows it, but condones it for some reason. They have some kind of weird arrangement. And so this whole time I'm worried about Joan. And the bait and switch is that Joan is the danger. If you want to go by the Breaking Bad version of this, is that this dude, this kind man and his wife have been under threat of Joan this whole time, and neither we nor they have known it. It's a really good bait and switch. Like, it's really well done.
Even her grabbing the knife. When she gets the knife, you're like, yeah, you take that knife. You're going to need that.
Takes like a steak knife from a restaurant. We're like, you defend yourself, girl. And she uses it to decapitate them. It's like, fucking hell. So that, that's it. It's a slow pace. It's very measured. It's very considered. But Blackcoat's daughter knows what song it's singing, and it's singing a dirge. And it does it so well. It hits all the notes you want it to hit, and it does it in the meter and time that you expect it to. You don't expect a dirge to be, done like the jitterbug. You expect it to be slow and stately and measured. And this delivers on all those fronts. Go ahead.
Like, one of the things that I love is Rose's story. I found Rose just absolutely fascinating, from possibly being pregnant to having to tell her boyfriend to her parents aren't coming today. Like, I was like, is that part of it? Like, did you expect that you were pregnant and you needed to talk to him about it, and that's why you're staying? Or were you just trying to have a date, like you say? Like, there's so many layers of lies, misdirects, whatever you want to call it, throughout.
Human behavior.
Yeah, human behavior. Absolutely. And especially at that age and every other age. But no, but I really liked how all of that takes up so much time that Joan's story feels more a part of it. Like, it still feels off, but I don't know. I would expect that some people bought it completely. Like, maybe it's Kat's sister coming or something like that, and that's why they look similar and why she's going there or whatever. And then, like, if you weren't paying attention and didn't know right away, like, you might even think that these were the parents on their way to visit Kat's, and something horrible happens to them.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Here's the funny thing. That never occurred to me, but I totally see how it is not only valid, but probably the intention. That's so cool.
I was wondering if it was the intention, like, as a red herring, but I also feel like they left enough out that we'll never know whether that was even purposeful or just how it can be read or whatever. And and I don't know, I really liked how every one of these characters has so much going on, and there's so many layers of lies, and I don't know. And then you have the dad driving the car, and he was a good red herring, but he was also like almost too far, like to the point I was like, I wish they would have dialed it back and just like let me think it was him more, because it was like it was so overt that I was like, I mean, it's not you, so like, so then I'm like, maybe it's the mom, maybe the mom's a crazy killer, you know, like it could be anything, right? Like there's so many ways this could have gone. But Don, what do you got over there?
Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to go back a little bit because this whole idea that this is taking place at a private school, that was the first thing that scared the shit out of me. And not even if it was like a religious school, just for full disclosure, those of you who don't know, and Jamie, we've never had this conversation. I used to teach junior high school, and I don't like being around that age group of kids outside of that arena. And whenever I see kids in public, especially like teenagers, I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. I'm not cool. Are they gonna push me? What are they gonna do? So when putting it in this setting, it automatically made me very tense. But then you also see how you brought up this idea of this aspect of loneliness, where everybody's lonely. You know, even the people that are in crowds of people, they're still lonely in this film, because I don't know how to really explain it without being mean, I guess. we for like this group of people that we can fit into, but the truth is, we're gonna find those people in the moments that we're not planning to find those people. Where I don't get the indication that, at least for me, that Joan and Kat really interact that much at the school. They really, you know, socialize. And now that they're put in this position where they have to be together, it's, I'm lonely, you're lonely. I don't want you to know I'm lonely. So I'm going to try to talk to you, try to demonstrate that I'm personable, try and put up this mask, right? Because I've already got stuff that I'm dealing with in my personal life with this pregnancy scare. But then there's also this thing of, I don't know how to deal with any of this. I probably don't want to be at this school, and I really don't. I don't want to be supervised. I want to be free. So when you come up with the story about, well, you know, the nuns, they're secretly devil worshippers, and you have this impressionable freshman, because I remember when she points out, you know, the fact that Kat as a freshman is a point of contention for her, and that she has to be with a freshman. The fact that she's using this as a guard, as a shield, as a mask to, I don't know, have a little bit of power over Kat's character.
Mm-hmm.
In order to, you know, at least in order to seem as though she has something, I don't even know what to envy, or something that she has that's a little bit better than her. You know, she's got this secret. So now I'm going to fuck with you over this secret. And now I'm going to make you a little bit suspicious. And as an audience member, I'm going to make you audience members suspicious of what else is going on here. And the fact that she's not going to go up and ask the nuns, hey, do you have wigs? Can I see this? Can I see what's going on? So now she's alone with this story that Rose gave her, which is making her even more alone, because I could easily see Kat. I mean, in other circumstances, I could easily see Kat as that kid who's, oh, let me help with the dishes. Oh, let me help Sister so-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. Let me help you with this. Let me help you with this. Oh, let's sit down. I'll play the piano for you. It seems like under normal circumstances, she probably would have been sociable with them. But now you've you've made her even smaller and made her more scared, more on the defensive. At least that's the presentation of it, to where I don't know, you're kind of an asshole at that point.
No, yeah, that's fair. I think you really hit something on the head with Kat, which is that first she loses her parents, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, her primary support system. Then the next person she looks to is the headmaster, who's like, "I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm gone."
And I'm not sticking around for 5 minutes to watch your thing.
Exactly. And she's left with Rose. And she's like, Rose will take care of me because Rose has been told to take care of me. And then Rose is like, fuck you, I'm out.
Mhm.
And Kat is left alone. And that isolation is what drives her to do what she does and to latch onto the only companion she has, which in this particular story is a devil, a demon, something that, manifests, that recognizes that loneliness and preys on it. There's this, creepy as fuck line where Rose, after her date, is actually trying to take care of Kat and is kind of putting her to bed. And she offers, if there's anything you need, just let me know. And Kat replies to her, no, thank you. You had your chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yep, that's it. I was like, Kat has found Satan and she's good. She's like, no.
Or that's Satan responding, saying like, hey, you had your chance with this kid. It's my turn.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. Take your pick. Yeah. No. It's a very telling moment. And Rose responds like anyone would, which is going into a room and throwing her couch in front of the door, which is very smart. Yeah, like who the fuck is this kid who just told me that their parents are dead, insisted on it, and then told me I had my chance? I'm not going to fuck with that. I'm just going to protect myself. Yeah, no, it's so much of that movie is about isolation, and there's an early moment where the parents are arriving to pick up the kids, and Kat, is just walking down the road that day looking for someone to come and claim her, and nobody does. And that's echoed in the finale of the film, in the last image, where as an adult, or a young adult rather, she ends up on the same road in the same lighting amongst the same trees and is just, just in absolute abject mourning because she went and committed another atrocity in the hope that it would bring back the possession that had kept her company. Right. And the possession never came back, and so she is bereft again, without hope. And that's kind of that's the arc of her character, is someone who wanted and needed guidance and to be taken care of and companionship so much that when anything offered it, she clung to it. And when it was gone, she was devastated to the point where she broke out of a mental asylum and made her way all the way back to the school. Bill has this speech about how you see God in unexpected places and in coincidences. And Kat, when she grows up and takes on the persona of Joan, flips that on its head and is like, well, if coincidences are divine, then, obviously this coincidence that I'm with the parents of the girl that I once beheaded is an opportunity to reconnect with the only true thing that I thought would stay for me, which was this demon. And so she's like, obviously that's a sign. I need to kill this mother and father, even if I don't want to, because if I do that, it will come back. Because that's exactly what Bill talked about. The idea of there are no coincidences, there's only divine intervention. And Kat so wanted that to be a divine intervention. She comes out of the asylum and she instantly takes 2 quarters, throws them in a phone, and calls what I'm guessing was her home number, because she called it as a kiddo looking for her parents, and there was static on the other line and then the demonic voice. This time as an adult, she calls it, and this number has been disconnected. It's it is so about needing to feel part of something and needing to feel taken care of, and I just think that is such a driving urge.
Well, the thing is, when you want to be by yourself, it's a great thing. right? But when you want a connection with anybody, anything, you don't want to feel alone. It is horrible. Have either of you, I mean, without anything too dramatic, I guess, have either of you been in that situation where you're just kind of like, you just felt like, the fuck? Like, there really are 8 billion people in the world, and I don't know any of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been there.
I think it's weird how prevalent that is with everyone I know, really. Like you think about, like, I know all these people, we're friends, they could come to me when they're down, but going to someone when you're down is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not to totally drop this off a cliff, but that's also why it's so important to check on people when you kind of see them, just even not doing what they normally do. Maybe check in, just because it can be so hard to make that. And then I'm looking at Joan here, and all I can think is that, ironically, she's living in a personal hell. Like, there's no way that the cops aren't going to go, wow, she stalked down the parents of her victim. Like,
Yep.
She puked in the car. Her DNA is everywhere. She's been touching everything. Everyone has seen them with her. Like, if there's video surveillance anywhere, whatever, like, this chick is going back to wherever she was, if not somewhere worse. And she's not only without her demon friend, or however you want to put it, but now she has the knowledge that it's not there. Whether it left her, whether it's gone, whether it doesn't exist anymore, I don't know how to reach it, and it obviously isn't looking for me.
Yep. That's devastating. Yeah, it's absolutely devastating.
Well, it's also like, you were special at one point, now you're no longer special.
Yep. No, that'll do it too. Yeah, it's an incredibly lonely film that flips exorcism on its head. Everybody always does movies about people who are possessed by the devil, and they cast out the devil, and the person's like, whew, thank God that's over.
Right.
This is a movie about like a possession in which the person invites it because they are just so fucking isolated. They need anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something. And when it gets cast out, and you actually get to see the shot of this thing turning its back on her.
Mm-hmm.
I was really sad. It's like, oh no, cat, get your demon friend back. Like, you need them. And then they were gone. I was like, now you're just stuck with this priest and then the system, and you're going to be fucked. And she was.
When she's laying there and she's like, no, don't go.
Yep.
Holy crap. Like, the fact that a writer was able to take that and make us feel what we felt with that moment is so cool. Like, that's what we all want right there. Like, the ability to take this crazy moment that shouldn't give you this feeling and to just devastate the audience with it is so beautiful.
Well, it's also the demons leaving because they don't want to be an accessory to the murder. I mean, what if she's just using this as an excuse to do it? I'm sorry, that's
You're not blaming me. I'm out of here.
Get out of here, Don.
Goddamn blonde teenage girls getting me in trouble and shit. What happened to a good old possession like in the 8th century? You got somebody to burn down their crops.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's the lie that it sells her too, which is really telling, is that she'll get to live there forever.
Right.
Meaning that she's safe and she's taken care of. Like,
and she has a home.
Yep.
Because she has a home, she has parents, but she's not there. They don't let her be there. They sent her here.
Yep. And now they're dead. And she's seen it in her dream, and she's, more or less had it confirmed and that they're not coming. Yeah, some of those, just visually, there's some scenes in there that really rattled me. Like, remember the first time I saw the film, and Rose wanders down into the basement following the sounds through the radiator, and peers through the window to see Kat, just doing the sort of kneeling, bowing before the incinerator. Or I guess the what's the word I'm looking for? It's not incinerator.
The furnace.
Furnace. There we are. Yeah. Yep. Doing the kneeling and bowing before the furnace. They do something there with the frame rate that's really unsettling. I don't know if they cut a few frames out of it to make her bowing look really herky jerky, but it fucked me up. Like that sight. I was like, oh God, no. Yeah, no, that to me was the most disturbing image in the thing, was the three bows at the furnace. And everything else just kind of, yeah, extended from that. It's tough to do a movie that ends in Hail Satan. It's real hard because it is such a loaded line that we all associate with South Park the movie at this point. It's right. Really hard to get away with Hail Satan. But I think they landed it. If you're in the mood for it, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, if you've bought into Kat and Rose and Joan, I think the ending lands. I think if you're on the fence with the movie, or if something takes you out of it, I think that moment might not land as well. The final Kat moments where, after she's beheaded two nuns and Rose, and is down by the furnace with those heads and the knife, and the cop comes, and, tells her to drop the knife, and she's all, "Hail Satan, hail Satan, hail Satan." I can see how that might not land for some people. It landed for me, and I was surprised that it did, because on the page, I think that would have read really like, really? But here I thought it worked, which, is very, it's debatable. I've looked online, and I know a lot of people are of the opposite opinion, but
for me, it totally landed. And just hearing you say on the page, I'm like, you're right. If I had read that, I would be like, no, we have to write something else for that.
Yeah, that it's totally directing and performance, and it's really hard to communicate that on the page. Again, why screenwriting is easier, right? You're relying on other people to fill in the color. In this case, they really did. Because done by rote, that could have been a really embarrassing moment. But it wasn't, for me at least.
Another thing that really works for me in this is the kills themselves, and not like the beheading, but the stabbing. The stabbing is so over the top, but not in a Army of Darkness way, like you were talking earlier. It's so extreme that, like, most movies, if somebody stabs somebody, it's a couple stabs and then they magically die, and you're like, wow, she must have hit the right spots. Not this one. This one's like 47 stabs all over your body. And I loved how it's fast. It's like,
Yep.
And it's brutal, but also just like you have a limited amount of time to make it count, so you have to get all these stabs in. And I found that worked so well for Kat's stature, as well as she's prodding through most of this. So when she's all of a sudden wham, 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 you don't expect it at all.
No, you do not. Yeah.
I love how much that works for the character.
Yeah, there's also that moment where after she's done stabbing Rose, she prepares for the beheading by grabbing Rose's hair and slowly pulling her head up into position.
Mm-hmm.
That moment that image has stuck with me for a very long time. It's absolutely horrific, because I think that the film does such a great job of making you relate to Kat and Kat's sense of loneliness. Especially in her performance, the song she plays at the piano, and the kind of haunted way that she interacts with everyone. I loved Kat. I adored her, and I just wanted her to be okay. And I think what the film does so well is it takes that feeling and it weaponizes it against the viewer. Because for Kat to be okay, it means a lot of other people have to die.
Right.
It's a tough trick to pull off, but I think they really did it.
There's something I forgot to bring up. I mean, you can come back up at any time, but with Rose, the whole pregnancy scare, right? Something I wrote down that I completely forgot about until we got into talking about her and of course Joan, the different levels within their respective loneliness. The idea that it's not just the fear of being pregnant, it's the fear of making that decision by herself, if she has to make it by herself, whether to have or not have the child. Because with that boyfriend, it doesn't, I think that's one of those fears that she has, or maybe I'm projecting, because this is what happened within my life. My wife, when we were going out, contacted me and she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." I'm like, "Great." And what she told me later, and this is not a secret, so she wouldn't mind me sharing it because she's told people this before, was her, including our child, her first thoughts when she took the pregnancy test, and then she took the third one, fourth one, fifth one, was that I wasn't going to want to have a kid, and that she was going to raise the child by herself if she decided to keep the child. And I talked with her. I said, "Well, why would you think that?" And she said, "That's kind of what you have to plan for. Is what if this person reacts negatively to me being pregnant?" And we saw this in what was that movie? Silver Bullet with the Hamster, Corey Haim, and and how one of the characters, she was pregnant by by her boyfriend or lover or whoever it was, but she was going to have an abortion, and it's this scene where she's looking in the mirror and she's like, "Well, I'll go to hell for suicide," because she was planning on killing herself. And the idea that a lot of people miss that fear that would have driven that character to that act, or driven a character like Rose to hide it, be quiet about it, not talk to too many people about it, or not being able to talk about it, except with the person who got her pregnant, at least having a full conversation. And that's something a lot of men, a lot of cishet men typically don't think about, which is a guy can leave. A guy doesn't have to carry the baby for 9 months. He can leave. He doesn't. And I'm not advocating for anybody to leave. I just want to make sure I'm being clear with that.
You're like, you can go. You don't have to stay.
But and those are those conversations that I've had with family members, friends, who've experienced pregnancy, and that is, they said, no matter how far they were in the relationship, no matter how secure, they were always concerned that this person can leave. I can't. And if they decide I don't want to be around anymore, they can leave. And you're going to be left behind. And you're going to be alone for, 9 months, 18 years, 40 years, raising this child. And I could imagine, excuse me, let me take that back. I can't imagine what would have been going through Rose's mind, considering that she's a child and having to go through this. Like, what exactly is going to happen to me? And I wrote down, "Yay, she got her period." Don't have to worry about that anymore. But, she didn't have to worry about it anymore. And you see the relief that she has. It's not about being pregnant. It's, oh shit, I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about being alone.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Also, I think this movie has a record number of characters peeing scenes. And honestly, it works because it's her plot. Just like, what is happening? I was like, oh, okay, so she... Yeah, no, the moment where she figures out she's not pregnant, I had to Reddit that. I had to be like, what? Yeah, no, it's pretty funny. But yeah, no, I think there's like 3 or 4 different people peeing scenes in that movie. There's at least 2 for Rose. I think 1 for Kat. It's just a lot of scenes that take place in bathrooms in this movie.
You
Joan in the shower.
Joan in the shower. Yeah, and there's so many bathrooms in this film. Like, The words interior bathroom must have been typed so many times.
No, they just copy paste.
Yeah, you're right. It autofills through Final Draft.
You couldn't see it because of how he stands, but the demon isn't actually leaving her. He was just turning so that he could use the urinal right there.
Absolutely. There's a whole cut scene where it's him sitting down on the toilet being like, oh, God. Oh. I'm
smoking a cigarette.
Hang on, Cat. I'll be there in a minute. Oh,
I can't get to the boiler room right now. You got to come up to the bathroom.
And he just
she's so clingy.
Comes back and she's gone, and then he's like, "Oh, I guess she's done." Then he leaves. Yeah, it's tragedy. It was funny. I was thinking about that today. It's like my third or fourth viewing of the film. I watched it again this morning, and that struck me for the first time. It's like there's so much bathroom stuff. There's Rose later takes a bath, and then that's repeated like twice. There's a vision of it, and then the thing itself. It's like so many people in the bathroom scenes in this thing.
There was a lot of drinking on set, so they were just using it.
I guess, yeah. They're like, I got to go 10-1, and Osgood was just like, follow them, Steadicam, now, go. It's just like,
look, they heard the story about Robert Downey Jr., the pee jars, and they're like, no.
Wait, what is that story? I don't know that story. What's that?
It was from Zodiac, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Zodiac.
Yeah, because oh my God, I forgot who directed it, but the director was doing shot after shot after shot because he'll do, I forgot what the number
Fincher?
was.
It's Fincher, like 1,000 takes per scene. Yeah.
And so what Robert Downey Jr. did, or at least what he is alleged to have done, is in between takes of the multiple takes, he was like, I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm just going to pee here. So he would pee in a jar and he'd leave the jar. Yeah.
That's madness. Oh my God.
Because he didn't want to leave the set because they would shoot and then cut. Okay, go back to your barks. Let's shoot. And just over and over again. He's like, no.
Was it the Marvel movies where he was hiding food around the set as well?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
And then, gosh. No, it wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch. It was somebody was hiding food in their costume so they could take snacks with them on set. God. And I think it stemmed because there was that one character on Game of Thrones who did that with his robes. The guy who played the spider was always doing that because he had the extra fabric. He would bring food. And
smart.
It makes sense that they would have started doing that in the Marvel universe as well.
Yeah, so Varys always had decent blood sugar. No, it makes perfect sense. He was always really level. Yeah, good for him. Smart. Yeah.
I just Googled the pee jars again, and it says that part of it was also just a form of protest.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't just not being able to leave the set. It just became fine. You don't want me to leave the set? Deal with this. So that's kind of great.
Also, now you're on record having Googled pee jars for the feds.
That's how I protect my search. I just I mention it on the show, so I can be like, that was.
Yep. Just know that during the next wave of McCarthyism, they're going to come for you.
I did write a book called Trumpus about Trump as a Krampus character and trying having Santa killed and taking over the North Pole. So I'm definitely on that list. So
brilliant. I'm into it. I want to read that book.
They just have to solve it by Epiphany, which happens to be January 6th for no reason at all.
There it is.
Look, sell enough copies to where you can buy a pair of those stupid shoes.
No.
Dear God, the gold gilded Trump shoes. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. It's all right. He understands, the black experience because he too has trouble with the law. What in the world? Who gets away with saying shit like that? How?
It's like he stole SNL scripts.
Like, what?
I swear to God, he must have. He must have, because I watched the news and I seriously thought it was Comedy Central because one of his campaign managers was like, well, you got to understand, African Americans like shoes, and this will win votes of the African American community. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yep. I saw that TikTok clip and I was like, my God, we're here. We landed here. It's over. The American experiment is done. we've reached pinnacle stupid, everyone. We're over.
No, I'm noticing sitting here how many things that he says sounds like a joke that Michael Shea wrote for Colin Jost during the joke swap. That's crazy.
Right? Yeah, no, it's staggering and depressing. And then like I was watching the Fonnie Willis stuff today, and completely disheartening because I don't know where this is going to land. But
Right.
like, of all the things to derail possibly, the most consequential trial against Trump, that even if he wins the presidency, he couldn't refute because it's state level. It's foibled by an affair? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I couldn't write this.
I'm like, what law was broken?
Yeah, like it's the blowjob in the Oval Office all over again. I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with that, kids. Like, maybe, okay, here's what's wrong with it is the power dynamics between a president and an intern, but
right,
whatever. It's
Dude, I keep picturing like a headline like the dick that destroyed democracy,
yeah, like
it's so far out there that it would be really funny if it wasn't real. Like,
exactly. It would be a wonderful comedy show if we weren't living it. But here we are.
Look, I had my mom, because apparently nobody else saw it. And then of course we'll go back to the movie, but his whole thing of like, oh my God, it's so dark in here. I can't see anybody except for the black ones. Maybe a couple of white ones, but I really just see the black ones.
What?
And I'm like, okay, so neither one. I thought it was I seriously thought it was like a deep fake when I saw it on the news.
But it's real. That's real.
He
oh my God.
actually said, he said, it's so dark in here. The only ones I can see are the black ones.
I don't know where to begin.
Right.
First of all, that doesn't make logical sense. Second of all,
I mean, he was staring into the sun shortly before this because there was an eclipse, and
my mom brought that up on our ride yesterday when we went to go do some errands as she's visiting here, and I said it's weird that he said that. And my mom was like, yeah, because he didn't even get the racism wrong. It was so bad.
Anywho, yeah, we're doomed.
Absolutely,
we're all doomed. Shout out to my fellow trans folks. Hi, we're all doomed too. So, pile up on your e-patches and whatever else you need while you can. God knows I am. But yeah, no, it's a horrible time to be alive. Here we all are. It seems like it's always a horrible time to be alive. I've yet to find maybe the Italian Renaissance. Maybe that was the nice time to be a human. Other than that, I've yet to find a really good era where being a human was awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably that's right after the primordial sludge.
Yeah, probably the first one that actually walked on land was like, nice.
This is pretty cool. There's no humans here.
Yeah, it's like,
and no rent.
Yeah, first one in, just to all the possibilities. They probably set up a franchise, so when the rest crawled out, they had to get jobs.
Yeah, had to pay him protection money.
Yeah. Whew. Anyway,
now that we've destroyed the movie completely, no, I don't have anything left in my notes. I don't know if either of you do, but
well, I did want to comment. I guess it's the last thing I'll comment before we go to movies, unless Jamie has something, which was just the discipline of that police officer.
Oh yeah, well it's tough, right, when you're presented with a child with a weapon, because most of the times these days it seems like it's kind of a shoot first, ask questions later. But this child was female and Caucasian, so he gave her 9 chances
at a private school. So
at a private school. Yeah.
I was like, this would be a very different story if the character was a minority. He would have gone down and probably just fired, which is again terrible time to be a human. Here we are. Yep. No, that's absolutely fair. I
would kind of like a comedy version of this scene though. Now that you're saying this, I'm just picturing like the cop being like, hey, little rich white girl, you need to stop that. Don't be calling your demon friend. Like,
there's
like giving her
there's
like
a movie
900
that
tries.
kind of did that, but not for comedy. Did you ever see Higher Learning?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, in Higher Learning, there's a skinhead who goes on a shooting spree at a college, and the police are kind of like indifferent to the people of color who are being victimized by this man. But when they finally corner the shooter, they really hold off on shooting him, and he's like, I wanted to be an engineer. And I'm like, you could still be an engineer. And I'm like, oh my God, you have to be kidding me. They're shouting words of encouragement at him to talk him down. I was like,
you could do this.
And it's funny because it's an older film. Like, I feel like it's like 90s or early aughts.
Oh yeah, it's 90s.
Yeah, 90s. And it really kind of foretold where we'd be now. In a really horrific way. So anyway, go see Higher Learning if you haven't seen that in a while. A lot of it's going to seem a little old hat in terms of like its take on like, hey, here's lesbians, look out. And you're like, oh no, lesbians are fine.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
We're on to hating trans people now. It's like, there's no trans representation in Higher Learning whatsoever, which is a shame. But if you go back to Higher Learning, the Michael Rappaport, I think, plays the skinhead / shooter, and
Holy shit.
it's a lot. The movie's good, and it was really good for its time. I think there needs to be a remake of Higher Learning with today's problems and today's issues, because I think that the story of young people in college finding themselves is poignant and necessary and should be reimagined about every 10 years, just to see what people are going through, because I think it's different, generationally. So yeah, somebody out there, if you're a better writer than me, please remake Higher Learning for today's world. It'd be a worthy film.
And still cast Michael Rappaport. No, I'm kidding.
No, don't.
Oh dear God, no. Nope. I've been following you on Twitter. Nope. Not Twitter.
Thank you, Jamie.
Nope, you're good. You can just safely ignore Michael Rappaport forever.
He has been a menace the last few years and really bad the last few months. Like,
I liked him more in Deep Blue Sea when he got his leg bit off. God damn it. Why are all the actors that used to be like, oh, they seem cool, are always popping out like, you know what? I think Gaza had it coming. Like, it's awful. It's just really disheartening, but you're seeing it more and more.
Guy, calm down.
No, it's the thesis of the Dark Knight over and over and over again. They're all living long enough to see themselves become the villain. It's really distressing. Anyway, hi.
It's crazy how that quote just sums up so much. I come back to that quote all the time.
Also, Nolan finally came clean. It only took how many years since that movie released for him to admit that his brother wrote that line, and he didn't even know what it meant when he first read it.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. 20. Oh my God! 16 years ago when it came out.
Yep, he says the fact that that's the film, that's the line from the film that stays with people haunts him, because when he read it on the page, he didn't understand what it meant, but he just left it there because whatever.
Good.
I have so many questions.
Poor Jonathan Nolan, who's like, well, I went on to make Westworld and I'm doing Fallout next, which I really love season 1 of Westworld and I can't wait for Fallout, but somewhere out there, Jonathan Nolan is finally breathing a sigh of relief and is saying, you know what? People know now. They know.
Now I want to know if he also wrote my favorite scene where Morgan Freeman's breaking down the bribe attempt.
Oh, God.
Plan.
I hope so.
He might have. We'll have to wait for Christopher Nolan to break down and finally admit it.
Look, he's going to take off a mask. He's like, we were the same person the entire time.
Yeah. I really want to, go back to The Prestige and just watch that again. That might be my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I really like The Prestige.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah,
another movie everyone should go see. If you haven't seen You Won't Be Alone, you really should. It's a really lovely fairy tale about gender and and wolf eateresses. Yep, that is exactly correct. Wolf eateress.
Huh.
So if you get a chance, go rent that one. It's really good. Naomi Rapace is in it. Naomi Rapace is kind of the name in that film, but she's only in it for a brief time. But the basic premise is, think about the time frame of about the Vitch, but way out somewhere in Europe, and there's a woman with a baby in a small village, and she comes in one day, and there is a naked, burned woman hovering over her child. And she's like, holy fuck, please don't eat my kid. And the wolf eateress is like, well, what are you going to do for me? And then she's like, you know what? Don't kill the kid. Take the kid. The kid is yours. You take the kid, and you won't have to be alone. And the wolf eateress is like, okay, I'll come back for the kid later. So the mother takes the kid and puts the kid in a cave, raises the kid for like 16 years in a cave alone. And then the wolf eateress finally comes back, kills the mom, and claims the kid. And then the movie is a journey of a shape-shifting monster teaching a child how to be a shape-shifting monster. And that includes gender. That includes everything. It's fucking incredible. It's so fucking good. It's basically, have you ever seen anything directed by Terrence Malick?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Terrence Malick horror movie. So the entire thing is shot through the eyes of wonder and beauty from the kid's perspective, even though the world around them is entirely horrific, including themselves and their own nature.
Wow.
It's incredible. I don't hear people talking about it enough. People really should be. I slept on it. I didn't see it until it came out, on streaming some time ago. But if you get a chance, You Won't Be Alone is one of my all-time favorites. And weirdly, a movie for comfort, especially if, you don't quite fit the mold. Yeah, go check it out.
Added it to my list.
There you go. We jumped into movie Rex and didn't even mean to. I love it.
Yeah, see how I did that? Just transitioned right in there.
That was beautiful. You're already better at this show than I am. You can have it. I will retire. All right. Well, I guess I'll throw mine out then. I always do a double feature, and I'm going with The Lodge. I just feel like the pacing and some of the themes match up, but also it just gave me that same feeling. I don't know, that depressed, like, I love this, but now I'm so sad kind of thing going on. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, I, as usual, James, I have like 1,000. Most of these are possession things. So, I'll just go through them really quickly. The Exorcist, the Insidious series, Conjuring series, same thing. Series as well. The Ritual, It Comes at Night, Poltergeist. I haven't seen the new one, so I'm really basing this off the old one. Actually, I take that back. I did see the new one. I just forgot about it. The Blair Witch Project, The Wailing, It Stains the Sand Red, Don't Breathe, Babadook, Creep, and I guess by default, Creep 2. It Follows, and we've mentioned this already, I'm the Pretty Thing in the Walls. I'm sorry, I'm the Pretty Thing in the House. The Lie is another one I would highly recommend, because when you're expecting one thing, they take you in a different direction, and then you start thinking that's what's taking place, and then they bring you back, and it's very well done. Same thing with I See You, where you think it's a possession film at one point, and it's something completely different. And then last but not least, this is a literary recommendation, because a similar scene takes place in Richard Wright's Native Son, where he disposes of a body in a furnace. And if you haven't read the book, for those of you who are listening, I highly recommend going out, picking up a copy, reading it, finding one online. Go to your library, get a library card if you don't have one. Read it, and then look for. Hey, I try. Read it, because you will see some of those same things about loneliness, You'll see those same things about being treated being treated in a way that people don't know how to treat you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I got.
Nice. Jamie, do you have any others that you want to throw out?
That's the big one, oh man, I'm gonna get the name wrong of this. Yeah, I'm about to totally slaughter the title of this film. Is it Artifice Girl? If you haven't seen Artifice Girl, not entirely a horror movie, more of a speculative sci-fi. Artifice Girl is a masterclass in how to make an independent film that is entirely manageable, being that there are, I think, 3 locations in it. And generally only 3 scenes in it. They are 3 long scenes.
Oh, wow.
Comprise this film with a cast of like maybe 5 people tops. And it is enthralling, wonderful, and beautiful. If you have a chance to see Artifice Girl, you can stream it right now. Highly recommend it.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, awesome. All right, let's bring it back to you, Jamie. Where can people find you on social media? And, are you going to be at any events on May 29th that they should once again hear about?
Oh, man, that's very specific. I'll be at Spirited Giving in San Diego, the pre-party for StokerCon, and a wonderful fundraising adventure that you should all come out for. Grab a ticket online and, just head out. It starts at 3 p.m. that Wednesday right before StokerCon, and we'd love to see people there. Other than that, if you want to find me on socials, it's not hard. I'm on Twitter as Jamie Flanagan 81, and I think the same thing on TikTok. And yeah, I'm around. I'm on Facebook too, though. Don't be offended if I don't respond to your friend request on Facebook. I don't use it much. But yeah, love to hear from people. I keep my DMs open mostly for the hate mail for Cassandra, but it's if you want to drop something nice in there, feel free. And yeah, it's what it is.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I loved the film. I hadn't seen it before, and I totally just got engrossed in it, as I've said. And we loved chatting with you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I guess that wraps it up for another week. As always, I am James Sabata.
And I am happy for when people get their periods when they don't want to have kids, because it's great. I've heard.
Excellent.
I've heard.
And we will see you next week here at thenecronama.com.